Hey, thank you for tuning in to Unfuck Your Mind. Today we have a little bit of a crazy topic per se to talk about, and it's essential to approach it with an open mind, I guess. We'll bring lots of points of view to this one. So Daniel and I want to emphasize that our perspectives stem from our personal experiences and how we perceive this topic through our own lenses. We are not imposing our views on anyone or judging anyone. Rather, we are inviting you to listen in on our conversation as we share our stories and beliefs. Our aim is to offer support to those who may feel isolated, unclear, or who are simply looking for support in their own self growth. We acknowledge the uniqueness of each individual's journey and extend our respect to all viewpoints, requesting the same in return. And with that said, I just want to add real quick that we might talk about people with disabilities briefly um in this podcast, and there's nothing demeaning meant behind it. We're just going to share a few statistics possibly, and I found them very interesting. But as of right now, we are going to step into I swear I'm not crazy. Well, I'm not going to swear, but that I'm not. Anyways, the power of talking to yourself out loud. You know what I always say? If people could jump in my head and hear my thoughts, I don't know, it would be a mosh pit of like complete sarcasm and humor and probably this actually, I'll be honest, this judgmental side like nobody's ever seen. Because in the safety of my own mind, like I will briefly, it doesn't happen a lot, not like it used to, but I will briefly give myself permission to be like a normal human being and judge. But I keep it to myself. And then I'm like, oh, this is what it is. No big deal. But I do because it's like the freedom to just express and be within myself. It's important. But I always know where my heart is and always honor other people. Do you talk to yourself, Daniel,
All the time. All the
out
time.
loud?
Yep.
Out
All the
loud.
time. I do. I like it.
You know, in thinking about this, I think the moments like people are surprised to hear this. I for their own reasons, whatever. I always say the person that people perceive me in certain ways is definitely not how I see myself. But for me, honestly, and I'm getting better with this because I've been really working at it like the last 6 months to a year, but looking in the mirror in the morning just drains my energy. And so I'm working in depth on unconditional love. And one of the things that I noticed I started doing when I decided this is enough, I need to accept myself for who I am and let go of harsh judgments. I will talk to myself in the mirror. Like if I'll catch my negative thought, like, oh, Jamie, you kind of need to get this in check or that in check. And I'll catch it in my mind and I'll say out loud, okay, so we're not going there today. Everything is just fine and you are perfect exactly how you are. You're doing great. You got this. And sometimes I wonder when I'm in the bathroom and I'm giving myself these pep talks in the mirror, if my kids are right out the door, what the hell they're thinking? Who's mom talking to?
Oh
Because I
yeah, I
don't know if
definitely
I've
don't.
ever
I definitely
shared
don't do
if
it
I
till
do that.
everybody goes to work and school and all that kind of stuff. Now I do
Oh,
it
not
like
me.
I drive a truck and have for almost 10 years, last 10 years now, which I have a lot of conversations with myself. But it is interesting because I do wonder. You said something there. I don't have a volume button. Anyway,
No, I forgot my. I
just
always have
trying
calming music on my TV in my studio here, and it was a
to.
little too high, and I didn't want it to interfere with Zoom because the noise blocking on
I
Zoom. So I
figured.
thought I should turn it down.
I
Anyways, go
figured.
ahead. You caught something interesting.
Well, it just Well, you said something there that kind of got me thinking.
Lay it on me.
Well, and it's because I understand there's a line there. Maybe balance. I'm not a big balance guy because I don't believe life is balanced at all. I believe, yeah, life is more like a heartbeat. There's ups and downs. Um, but I mean, really, and yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's because you said, sometimes I look in the mirror and I just, have to tell myself that you're okay. I love you, accept you the way you are, and all this. And sometimes I just wonder. I'm like, and again, I'm not saying always, okay, because I understand somebody who struggled with, self worth most of my life. I understand the idea of building yourself up, but at the same time, it does kind of make me wonder of like there needs to be a time where honesty is the priority as well. And that if there really is a legitimate reason why there's something about you that you don't like, and I'll just use myself as an example so people don't,
Yell at
get
you for
all
bashing me.
yeah, get all bent to shit and everything, right? Well, I mean, I could start bashing you, but that's an all day job. Anyway, um,
I love you too, Daniel.
anyway, I,
Here. I was pretend stabbing him for those of you who are listening after I sent him a heart with my hands.
yeah.
I forget now we're both
See,
places
that's what I'm
listening.
talking about. There is no balance. How do you send a heart with the hands and
Right.
then the stabbing method right after?
All in
Tell us,
good
tell us
humor.
again how you're not crazy. Anyway, okay, back to my point.
Okay, yeah, go back to your story. Come on, get
Yeah,
your shit together.
distracting. Anyway, no, but like that, but there is that moment, because there was a time where I just, and I've shared this a lot, but it's something that's was very impactful for me because it did lead me into the place of hypnosis and what I'm super passionate about now. And like for me, this is like my purpose in life. I mean, it basically 45, I finally found that. But there was that moment where I was like, I just don't like the person I am right now. I don't like how much I weigh. I don't like what I feel like, and I don't like the inconsistency and the struggle. And it was that moment where being honest with myself and just being fed up with the shit is what really propelled me to change. I mean, it really just kind of, pushed me forward into going on that journey of self discovery. And this is what led me into, NLP and then which hypnosis, big part of that, of the creation of NLP. And, um, but there was first that moment because again, as I've shared, but it, it was when I heard the late great Dr. Miles Monroe, who was a minister from the Bahamas and all this other stuff. But the guy was he was really really good at what he did. But he said something that forever changed the course of my life, and I don't mean that like in a dramatic way. I mean that like literally. And he said something that just hit me like somebody just hit me. I mean, just dropped just a ton of bricks on me, as they say, right? But it was nothing changes until your mind changes. And taking a look at my life at that point and basically saying, I don't like the person that I've, become, and I don't like the struggles that I've had most of my life. And just, just to be really real right here in this moment, because I'm kind of feeling that way, but I'm just sick of all the bullshit. I'm sick of the the self-worth issues. I'm sick of never having confidence and never being able to put myself. I just got to that point where I'm like, I'm just fucking fed up with this shit. I just want to be done with it. And it wasn't this, oh, I'm just going to fake it till you make it, because I fucking despise that saying. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I'm getting super, but, like, and I'm not an advocate of beating yourself up, but I am an advocate for being real. I am
Yeah.
an advocate for getting to that point. I heard this analogy. It was kind of used in the terms of marketing, but it just stuck out with everywhere else. People who don't really want to get up and move away from that comfort zone, right? It's like, picture that comfortable chair that you always like to sit in and just watch TV and do nothing with your life. You sit there, you eat too much, you get fat, and you watch TV and do nothing with your life. If you saw just a little piece of paper over across the room, that's not really a motivation to get up. But if somebody lights that chair on fire, your ass is going to move. I mean, and that was, I mean, I know, right? But that was kind of that moment for me, was being real with myself and understand that I was actually, metaphorically in a burning building, and just being real with myself, being like, you know, every part of my life just sucks and I fucking hate it. And I'm not a, and look, away from motivation is a good temporary boost. Now, yes, you have to have towards motivation to keep you going, right? Something in front of you to keep pulling you forward. But away from motivation, I think, is a good temporary boost in the moment of like, if you do, kind of again circling back to, you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, that's okay. It's and it's okay in the sense that if there's something about you that you can change, it doesn't diminish your value. Honestly, I think it increases it, because one of the things that I've seen for years, even honestly, being in the church world as a, I mean, I've been minister and all kinds of stuff, right? Been a youth pastor, all kinds of things. I know it may sound odd to some people, but yes, I have been. I've all
And
that
now
stuff,
he's
and
ventured on to unfuck your mind.
I know, right? You know, but again, language is anyway. I'll get off all that because I'll go off the whole rant there too. But but one of the things that I noticed is that oftentimes people stay stuck because they're so victim minded. And again, not talking about what you were just saying. So don't, obviously I know you well enough to know that, but that's not the case with you. But I'm just kind of making a point for anybody else who's listening that may be struggling with this. And that is, that kind of victim mentality is either ignoring what you need to be real about with yourself, or blaming it on somebody or something outside of you. Because again, nothing changes until your mind changes. And I kind of went off on a rant there. It was just
So
ever,
what's new? It's just how it
I
is.
mean, right? Yeah, but it was that surreal moment for me of like, I just got to that place where, something had to change. It had to be me, and it had to be now. And I got into that place where, again, that comfortable chair I was in was just lit on fire. And it just, and it propelled me into what I'm doing now, and the, so many things that I love to do. But it took that moment of just being absolutely real with myself and being like, dude, for
Stop
me
feeling
anyway.
sorry for yourself.
I mean,
Stand up and empower yourself and
and
take charge of your life, dude.
well, it was like, dude, for me anyway, this is the way I kind of put it. I'm just going to be honest. But I was like, you're fat as fuck. You feel like shit all the time. You don't want to play with your kids. This is not the person you want to be. That's not a criticism. That's just a reality. And the beautiful thing about that, I was like, It wasn't like, oh, I'm just criticizing myself for the sake of beating myself up. I'd done that most of my life, so I knew what that was like. But it was that moment of like, okay, if you want to change it, then you got to change you. You can't change your circumstances. You got to change you. And again, that propelled me into the discovery of NLP, hypnosis, and that's when all the changes started happening. And it, you know, and it really snowballed. That the snowball effect, right? It just gained momentum. The more that once I got into the idea of lose, this is the reason why I'm such a big health and fitness guy, is because when I saw just how using hypnosis and NLP techniques, how easy it was to lose weight, it was like, geez, man, this is amazing. And it just began to build momentum. And then I started working on all these other things. But, kind of circling back, I mean, and I'll be honest, I literally was talking out loud to myself,
That's what I was going to
looking,
ask you. So,
yeah,
were you talking out
yes,
loud or
I
talking
was,
internally?
because, well, what had happened, I went on this, I'd done a few diets and up and down, weight was up and down as a truck driver and all this other stuff because I couldn't be consistent. And I just, I had that moment of looking in the mirror and like even feel the emotion now. Of just looking in the mirror and being like, fuck, I just don't, I don't like the person you've become through this shit. And I mean, I said that out loud. Like, dude, you're fat as fuck, you're lazy as fuck, and you're not being a very good dad, and you're not being a very good husband. I mean, it was just all that. I mean, I was. I mean, I was just to that point, and I said that stuff out loud, and it was the best thing I could have done. It was at that point in my life. It was the best thing I could have done. Was like, again, not being critical of myself just for the sake of beating me down, but being real with myself for the sake of finding a solution, knowing what
Well,
I wanted to move away from.
I think when you hear yourself say something out loud, it makes it more real, and then problem solving kicks in easier because you physically can hear yourself say it. And when we talk, we can also feel the vibrations in our head, which is a sensation, whether we realize it or not. It's just a fact. It's different saying it to ourselves out loud versus someone else saying it. So we
Right.
hear it and we actually feel the vibration, which can then, start that process of um, problem solving and making things happen. Like when I
And
go to the energy guy that I go to, and we work on like whatever I'm working on in that moment, like we do a lot of bilateral stimulation. And with that, I have to say the affirmations that he gives me 3 times out loud, looking at one spot. And then I have to close my eyes and say them at least 3 times or more if I feel I need to say it more, because then you say it within your own mind and you say it out loud. And the key to that is you're using a lot of parts of your brain. There's other things that I have to physically do with my hands, but it's like super cool because with bilateral stimulation, doing both ways, quiet and out loud, you get to do
which is
both
interesting.
and
I
use
didn't know you did it
all
like that.
of your brain.
I didn't know
Yes.
you did it like that because that's that's
It's
actually
NLP.
hypnosis is what that is.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
NLP.
Well, that's like it's part of eye fixation and yeah. Anyway, kind of
Because
nerded out right there for a second. I was like, oh shit.
I
Um,
suppose I've never shared that with you. I've only shared my
no, you haven't.
experiences.
So yeah,
But yeah,
that's interesting.
he
Um,
does. He is actually a hypnotist. He just stepped out of the realm of like he more stepped into the realm of bilateral stimulation, NLP, and stuff like that. So he does
which
a lot of Reiki. It's fun.
yeah,
It's all
I
the
sort of say,
same.
a lot of it has a very similar vein, if you will, of change work.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I had found some statistics because I asked ChatGPT like what the statistics of how many people or how much do people talk to themselves out loud on a daily basis. And this is the part where um I think this is like really cool because let me get this open here. So it just says like talking to oneself out loud, known as external self talk or private speech, which is an interesting way to look at it, is common behavior observed across various age groups, while precise statistics on the daily frequency of this behavior in the general population are limited. Several studies offer insights. So it makes me, this is both like, I feel it makes me sad and liberating at the same time. So, people with social isolation or that remove themselves from social settings talk to themselves more. So in one aspect because they're like alone and secluded, that part makes me sad. But then oh my gosh, what an amazing thing that we are more self-sufficient than we give ourselves credit to because these people that are in isolation or alone talk to themselves out loud. Like that's just proof right there that we do need humans, but it also there's so much proof right in that alone that we can take care of ourselves in more ways and we do take care of ourselves in more ways than we even think about. Think if you're home alone all day, like this is true for me. If I'm home alone all day, which is pretty rare, but let me tell you, I talk to myself the most when I am home alone. Like
Same. Yeah.
sarcasm, all the things. Like I'll be just about doing the laundry and cleaning, or I'll pop into work, and then all of a sudden it's like saying just the most random stuff I can't even think right now. I should have wrote some things down, but I'll laugh with myself. So yeah, I am
Same.
crazy, but
But
it's just
uh,
really cool
and
when you
that's even
think
on
about it.
the positive side of things. Like there's times where doing this stuff, like me and you're doing the podcast, and the last year, man, I mean, like I've accomplished more things in the last year, probably have my whole damn life as far as stuff that I actually want, as far as things that I'm really passionate about building and stuff. But there's times where I'll just take them like I'm here all day by myself generally, as long as the kids are in school, wife works and day shift, and I'm here until because I work night shift. And so there's times where I will just take a moment and kind of go through a list of a few things that I've accomplished. And I'll say those things out loud. Like, dude, look what you've done. You've done this and you've accomplished this and you've created this. And I'll just take kind of that moment because I am such a results driven person. I'll have it. I generally have more of a natural bent towards looking at what I've not done than I have at what I have done. So I've had to be more intentional about reminding myself of things that I've accomplished, um, and just to kind of keep me motivated. Also, in the sense that one that kind of like says, "Hey, look, you're making progress." So that keeps me out of the realm of overwhelm because for me, I don't know how anybody else works, but if I start thinking about all the things that I haven't done and shit that I
Yes.
should be doing, that's what I said to myself I should be doing, right?
Yeah. Don't
It's
should
like,
yourself.
yeah, exactly. And I'll get caught up in that, and I'll start to have that kind of tendency to want to shut down and just alienate myself and just go do meaningless, stupid tasks. It's pretty much a waste of time. And so for me, it's the idea of talking to myself out loud. Really, I do talk to myself out loud and just say, "Hey, you've done this. You've accomplished this. And all you have to do is this next step to complete that task." And
It's
it keeps me on point
super interesting because I'm the same way. It's so easy
naturally.
to look at the right. So easy to recognize that to-do list. And I can go through it in my head and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh shit, you know, I have to do this yet or I didn't do that or I forgot about that. So I'll go in and I'll actually physically write a list. So A, I don't have to worry about it. And B, I can cross off the things. And, I can go back and see what I've done, even if it's the smallest task. But yeah, I totally feel you on that one.
I wonder
Um,
also just how saying it out loud is kind of the equivalent of writing it down as well. Because,
I kind of
that's,
do both because,
well,
yeah,
that's
I'll
what I was
go
saying.
through my list and I'll read it out loud to myself.
There's been kind of a lot of studies on that about writing down goals and things like that to make them more tangible and achievable, if you will. But um, yeah, I do wonder if like if saying them out loud also, because your words carry a vibration, they carry an energy, they
Mhm.
carry something that even some science studies have proved that the vibration your words carries never stops moving throughout the universe. Like it just carries the vibration. It gets far enough away to where you no longer hear it, but the vibration of it just never stops moving, which I found was incredibly interesting.
It is interesting. I've
And
not
and
heard that before.
yeah, yeah, it was something I could be missing some of the details there, but something it was a study that I had read like years ago. Um, but it always stuck with me about some of that stuff, and it was such an interesting um idea there of like saying things out loud, keeps it out there, if you will. Right? Almost like, what if you think in the business world, it's like ROI, right? Return on investment. And sometimes for me, like it does help for me to, when there's nobody specifically to talk to, because I mean you've talked back and forth about ideas and things like that to bounce stuff off of each other and stuff like that. But when that's not available, I think it's okay to just speak out loud, talk to yourself out loud as though you and somebody else is there, if you will. I don't know. I think that makes sense. But
I mean, now I'm kind of reflecting like on my grandma who you'd always hear her whistling or making like little blowy noises out of her lips or humming or anything like that, and she just was always so happy. Well, she still is. Her health is deteriorating a little bit, but it's interesting because then when I put that into ChatGPT, which I normally don't do, but something was like, I want to dive deeper than just the surface. When you look at people with Down syndrome, they're so happy. I know, like, the ones that I've seen or witnessed or been around, you can just see they're so happy. And then so ChatGPT was like, so this is what it says. At the Adult Down Syndrome Center, 81% of adults were observed to engage in self-talk or conversation with imaginary companions. So people with Down syndrome are literally having happy conversations with themselves because I firmly believe that they don't really get critical or judge themselves. They're just in their happy place.
my
And that, like, that's a gift that they freaking have. Like, I want to go there.
well, my wife's grandmother, um, matter of fact, the home that we own now, we actually bought this home from her grandmother. Um, and when she was here, now we this is just 2021 is when we bought this home. But from her, with all the land and everything, because it's just too big for her. But this used to be kind of like a group home where she would house people with disabilities, adult with disabilities, and she had a lot of them with Down syndrome. There were several that came through here with Down syndrome, and it was. It's like, my wife's told the stories, even growing up around it, because it was long before I knew them. She was doing this as well. She still had some when I was after I'd married to the family and everything. But my wife talked about just how kind of bold and happy and
Yes.
just they just had this kind of a way about them where like it was just like I don't give a shit about anything. I'm just gonna
Yes.
be me, and that's it. And I've often it's funny that you brought that up because I've often thought about that of like how interesting that is that most people their whole life fight for the ability to not care what other people think,
And they just have it.
and they're just like natural. It's
Yeah,
just like, and that's not even like I mean, to me, that's a superpower, man. I mean, because somebody who
I
struggled with it for
agree.
45 years of my life of scared of what people thought about me, I'm like, shit, man, that's a coveted superpower, in my opinion. It really is, man, because
It
you
is.
know,
And
and so many people I know struggle with that the idea of putting themselves out there, right? And you talk about these people with Down syndrome, and it's just like they don't give a shit. They're just who they are. They'll say what they want to
right.
say and do what they want to do. And it's just like,
There's just so much in their own happy place. Like
yeah, I
every
know.
Down syndrome human that I know, even people in passing, they're so freaking happy.
Yep.
And you will see them talking to themselves and all the things. And I've never looked at it that it was like crazy, like our title says, but like just intriguing that they're so happy in their own little world. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just like inspired by it. So when ChatGPT brought that to me, I was like, oh, this takes it to a whole new level. Like these
Really.
people that talk to themselves are happier. They're just happier. It's like being your own companion. It's like giving yourself self reassurance and talking through a problem out loud. It works so much better, I think, when you talk out loud because I feel like you can feel the impact of the words on a greater level versus in your head you have all these thoughts, and I think it's easier to go down that rabbit trail of negativity. Or I mean, you can switch it too. We have the capability of doing it on positive light too, but I think for the average person it's just easier to go down the rabbit trail. So hearing it out loud has a greater impact. Like when
I
people say
agree.
like I'm so stupid, like oh my gosh, right now that made my stomach drop because that's not something I ever say to myself. But when I think about that in my head, which I typically don't, the impact of it feels different energetically through my body.
Yeah.
It's so important to pay attention. So if you're saying negative shit to yourself, say it out loud once and see how it feels and then stop. Because if you wouldn't say it to someone that you love, you shouldn't fucking say it to yourself. There.
Thousand
That's
percent.
my harsh one of the day.
I mean, really, 1,000% is that, and I've heard that, over the time of being in this space of kind of personal development is, if you wouldn't say those hard things you say to yourself, if you wouldn't say that to somebody else, then there's your sign right there. And, yeah. I mean, again, I'm definitely advocating being real with yourself, just not criticizing and judging yourself in a just for the sake of doing that. Being real for the sake of change, I advocate for.
Yeah, it's like step out of the place of self pity, turn that self pity into self empowerment. You can recognize the things that you are able to change about yourself, like Daniel said earlier, recognize those and then just step into that empowerment and just say, I'm sick of this shit. Take over
Yep.
and just do it. Step out of the self pity that's just going to keep you there. And I mean, yeah, I recognize that's a normal human thing. Lots of times we tend to go there, but it's not serving you. It's not helping you. You
Not.
deserve more in life. So,
And I think oftentimes, like more oftentimes than not, when I've again prior to what I know now, um, most of the talking out loud to myself was things like that. You know, why are you so stupid? Why you keep
what
doing
is
that?
it's like, what is
What's
my
wrong with you?
problem? Yeah, what's
Yeah,
wrong with me?
what's wrong with you? I mean, those kind of negative things that I would say out loud because I felt that kind of, need to word vomit, if you will. And there was that, that wanting to do that. And then I started like, well, if I can do, and obviously being in the space now, I understand a lot more of the language patterns and things like that, but and how to change all that. But now I understand just the value of saying the good stuff as well, saying things that I've accomplished, saying things that that I can be doing, or things that those goals, and saying that stuff out loud is very um yeah, surreal to me.
It is like I've noticed I unintentionally started saying things to myself like, "Oh my God, I'm really fucking proud of myself. Look what I did. Look how
Yep.
far I've come. Like, holy shit, I'm so proud of myself." And sometimes, like, I think when I first started doing it, I didn't realize, but I had to separate. Like, I had to look at myself because my, I didn't have such high thoughts of myself years ago. So it was kind of like separating myself. If I looked at myself as if I'm someone else and I think about all the things I've accomplished and I've done, holy fuck,
Yeah.
that's a kick-ass human. And then I slowly just started channeling it into, but that's me. And that's, I think, how I unintentionally started, you know, channeling the good verbiage per se.
Right.
But I want to take this in another direction because this is something that I still struggle with and I'm so guilty of. Like stories or things that you said or did like 5 years ago or 10 years or 20 years ago, and it pops back up in your head and you're like, oh my God, why did I say that? It's like, why didn't I say this? And now I have the comeback. I had that not long ago again. This is something that happened probably, oh my gosh, a really long time ago. There's this one conversation I had. It's probably like 19. So that was
And that was a long
not
time ago.
yesterday.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks. Anyways, that actually popped up in my head the other day, and I literally said, Jamie, nobody else remembers this situation or this story. Why are you thinking about it? And it was just because I was in a room full of people, and what I said, I knew my intentions, but everybody took it a different way. And it still pops up. And so I physically have to remind myself out loud, Jamie, this was so long ago. Let it go.
So I
We
have an
can
interesting
talk.
take on this.
Good, because I want to hear it.
Well, because um I've it's a common thing for me too, to bring up and think about things that I'd done that was kind of stupid, or sounded stupid at the time, or was like, I'm like, the hell was I thinking? you know, those kind of moments, right? Um, but I've learned something, which is timeline work. And so now the biggest, and if I could give people the advice about change work, the biggest tip for change work in your life is be curious.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the context of whether it's NLP, Reiki, hypnosis, cognitive behavior therapy, all that stuff, right? All of that stuff is it is more, it's not concrete, right? It is more like um it's more like rubber. It can flex and move, and because what I started getting curious about was, okay, how can I take this stuff and tailor make it more to myself, or other people and things like that. And so even in the context of this right here, what you're saying, timeline work is about going, um try to make this quick, but getting to the initial sensitizing event, right? So one of those One of the things that I've actually used timeline work for in the context of hypnosis was a smoking client. Went back to when the first time that they remember smoking, because they did remember that. It was a very prevalent memory. And so I thought, okay, that's something they actually remembered and brought up. I didn't bring it up. So I thought, boom, let's go here. So went back to that memory and had them, instead of making the decision to smoke, I had them change the memory just using their imagination. I said, just change that. It's, just actually turn that down. What would you say now is that person back, that person back then? The person you are now, what would you say back then? And they'd be like, oh, I turn that down. I tell them, well, what he told me is I tell them to fuck off. That's what he told me. That's what he told me. Um, but so in the context of that, that's, I said, fine, do that now. Just use your imagination. Do that now. See yourself, and of course, I went to some details of it and how all that works. But bigger picture in this moment is he did do that. And it absolutely worked. That was one of the key points in that. He even talked a little bit about that after the session and everything. Um, but one of those things was, just going back to that initial event and changing it, just using your imagination to, because look, they've done numerous studies on this as well. Everybody say, "Oh, I remember that." No, you don't. Every time you pull up a memory in your past, your mind changes details of it. That's why
Yes, I have.
two people can be in the same room for the same event and have completely different accounts of it about who said what, who did what, and all this other stuff. The reason why that's true is because every time you pull up a memory, there are elements of it that changes every time that actually did not or did
I've
happen.
done the same research and found the
Yeah.
same studies and stuff. Interesting that you did that too. Anyways, keep talking.
Yeah, right now. But it's the idea here is you have those moments where you think about something, because again, I used to live in that place. Of all the things I've said that I thought was dumb, stupid, embarrassing, whatever the case may be. And now I think about those moments and I actually I do one of two things. I either change what I said or did or whatever the case may be, or I go in and I actually find something of like, what's funny about that now? That maybe I felt embarrassed about back then, but now I can look at it and think, oh, that was a great thing to say. Well, it was dumb, but it was funny. And I've had those moments where I actually changed those events that were more traumatizing to events that are more comical, and it really just takes that whole negative charge out of it. And I, as simple as that is, just try that. Try just in that moment that you feel that memory that maybe is embarrassing or whatever the case may be, or you feel like it's a dumb thing to say, change it. Your mind does that anyway. So you might as well use that to your advantage. Change it in your imagination. Imagination is the most powerful thing you've got anyway. But change that in your imagination of, you know, what was something good to take away from this? What was something that I've learned from this? Or what was something that's funny now that maybe wasn't funny back then?
That other people didn't have the same sense of humor. Because
Right. I mean,
it was meant for serious humor and everyone just looked at me. I was like, that was supposed to be funny. But on my end, like I didn't think about addressing it because it's a super minor thing. But
right,
the
right,
fact
right.
that it keeps popping up, I think it just keeps popping up on my end is because I had intended humor and it was in a room full of people and not one person saw the humor. I'm like, what's going on here? It's like the humor bloopers.
Well, and even in that moment, because you say it keeps popping up.
Yeah. Well, I never thought to give it the time of day. It doesn't pop up
Well,
regularly, but
well, I
every
will
couple of
say that
years it'll just boom.
if it does pop up, that would almost indicate that there may be something there that may be relevant to you today. Maybe your mind's trying to tie together.
I'll explore it later.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, like
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're kind of getting to it right now. We're just between us, but really, like, those memories that I've had like that, I've noticed that when they come up at random times, when I started getting curious about those things, it was, oh, I see. There was something that happened recently that reminded me of that.
Hmm.
Let's see how I can change that. And now, I've noticed that since I've started doing that, because once I learned timeline work, it just kind of made sense at that point. Um, I've noticed those memories from my past just get fewer and fewer and fewer, unless I intentionally, consciously bring them up for some reason. Like the sporadic times just get fewer and fewer and fewer. So yeah, I don't know. He's just throw it out there.
Oh, it's just so insignificant. I never thought to work on it or to do anything with it. So, but now I'm going to just out
Oh,
of
I would just be curious.
curiosity.
Yeah, I was just kind of be curious of
Yeah.
like how it could affect your present because we're a culmination of our memories. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what how we've created behaviors and values and all that stuff. So
Our
yeah,
subconscious is the library of our past.
yeah, and our future.
Yeah.
I won't
Future
get into that.
memories.
Yeah, future memories. That's right. I coined that phrase. Yeah. Anyway,
Woohoo. Um, Let me see.
what else you got? What else you got?
Well, talking to yourself out loud boosts cognitive processing. Speaking thoughts out loud helps the brain organize and process information more effectively. Oh, like I said before, making problem solving easier. Talking to yourself
Totally
out
agree.
loud and yeah, talking to yourself out loud enhances memory retention. Verbalizing thoughts activates more areas of the brain, which I actually already covered through bilateral stimulation. Um, Bilateral stimulation, for those that don't know, is just using all the parts of your brain versus just like one. So it enhances memory retention. Verbalizing thoughts activates more areas of the brain, improving recall and learning. Talking out loud regulates your emotions. Talking to yourself helps manage stress and anxiety by giving your brain a structured way to process emotions and find solutions. Oh, and this is good. Like, I didn't even realize I put this in here, but you are the best hype person that you know. I would say that you're the best because here's the truth. You can look to other people for like an example. I'll go to Daniel for advice. Like, I want to maybe create this program, what should I do? And he can give me his opinion, but he's not going to have the same intense feelings that I'm going to have about it because this is my unique blueprint in what I'm creating. So you learning how to talk to yourself in a way that's going to pick you up and boost your confidence is way more powerful than anything anyone else could ever say to you because you know every intricate part of yourself. Nobody else does. And I know I talked about this before because I preach this all the time, especially to my clients. Like nobody else knows you like you do. So you are your best cheerleader. So it says no one is better at talking. No one is better at talking you into or out of something than yourself. Give yourself a pep talk. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You can
Uh,
talk yourself into or out of anything. Like now I'm
oh
thinking about like workouts in the morning, right? Like this morning I really didn't want to get up and go to the gym. I'm like, nope, 5 4 3 2 1, get your ass out of bed and just get ready. And then I get there and I'm like, I'm so happy I'm here. But I could have easily talked to myself. It's Monday. I'm already tired. And I have to record podcast at 10 a.m. with Daniel. And I have to prep
no.
for my clients. And I could come up with all these excuses. And then I flip it and it's like, well, guess what? If you get up and get your workout in, you're going to feel so much better about your day. So, boom, you have a million excuses why you can't, and one really fucking powerful reason why you can and should. And I went,
Well, and that's like, yeah, all that stuff you said is just absolutely true. I know from my own, from my own life is, um, again, getting curious about my thought patterns because there's times where I'll think things I'm thinking, what was the point in that? And then I'll start processing out loud, especially when I'm in the truck. Because now I'm by myself, I don't have a co-driver
Yeah.
anymore. Now I'm by myself. I start processing out loud. And I will carry on a full dialogue as though there's somebody sitting right beside of me. And I mean I will. And and I can't tell you how many times I have come to such a positive solution for kind of some negative thinking, if you will. Um, verbalizing it, getting it out there, talking it through with myself on a solution is it's incredibly just I don't know, it's satisfying for me. I love it. I just
Yeah.
it's one of the most because I think it's my opinion, but I'll say it this way is that I think in the age that we live in, cell phones, TV, everything's streaming, all that stuff, right? Um, the the ability to just sit with yourself and just carry on a conversation with you, as weird as that sounds, just you by yourself, I think is such a benefit that we've lost in the culture that we're a part of right now. And again, I'm not opposed
I
to technology or any of that stuff. I think it's amazing. It can be a wonderful tool and all of just like the podcast and stuff like this.
I agree.
But I think taking that moment, again, those moments on the truck and on the treadmill, those two places are my places of internal processing, downloading, uploading, whatever you want to call it. Those are my places. Talking out loud, all that stuff is something I make it a priority. I really, really do because I think it's just insanely valuable.
I just love being sarcastic and humorous with myself out loud. It's
Yeah.
just fun.
Well, just so you
It's
know,
super
nobody else
fun.
is like that. So
Shut up.
don't you keep that shit to yourself. See what I did there? Ah, well, that's pretty good. Anyway,
Yeah. So actually, before we end this, I told Bill he just started listening to our podcast. He's a local in my area. So I told him I would give him a shout out. So thank you, Bill, for finding our podcast and tuning in. He's pretty much a newbie. He's only gotten like maybe 3 episodes, but I saw him this weekend and I kind of showed him around on Spotify and how to find season
nice,
one
awesome,
and, all the other seasons. So thank you, Bill, for tuning in. Love
very
you.
cool. Appreciate it.
And yeah, to all of our other people that tune in, thank you so much. Don't forget to go check us out on YouTube. We need people to go subscribe, like, comment, things like that, because we need YouTube to know that we are liked so they show our content more because people are coming to us saying we can't find it. Just keep looking. We are out there. You just have to search because the algorithm has not
Well,
pushed us up yet.
you do drop that link, don't you, in the
Yeah.
podcast
There
description?
yeah. Yeah, there should be we can talk about that later because there is a link when they go on our podcast website for Buzzsprout. There's that YouTube link. So I don't know if you connected that yet or not, but we can work that out later.
Yeah, I think I did.
But
I'll check just to make sure.
okay.
Well, I think I did. I know we talked about that. But yeah,
So, anyways, yeah, thank you everyone for spending your precious time with us. Please spread the word. We hear so much positive feedback, and we really just want to, connect with people, be real and raw, and give thoughts and ideas to shape your perspective into more positive light. So, thank you so
yeah,
much
and
for
we
tuning in.
definitely appreciate you listening. And I know me and Jamie are both doing things outside the podcast. I do host a weekly kind of weight loss workshop and hypnosis session that is absolutely free. Um, because I kind of got tired of seeing people struggle with consistency for losing weight. That is something you'll find in the description, a link to that. Go there, sign up. There's some good free stuff that you'll get from that. Most of it is the interaction that we have on that call. I really enjoy the people that are showing up and Had a fun time. It was just a few people last night, but we had a great time and had a lot of laughs and things like that because I'm the same person I'm on here as I am there. So it's I enjoy enjoying life. Um, but yeah, if you're kind of tired of the inconsistency of losing weight, I'll show you the exact process that I used to get to where I'm at, not struggle with my weight for the last 3 years, and help you get there as well. So, yeah, that link in description will be in the podcast description. So go there and sign up.
Yeah, you can also find I did start my guided meditations back up. You can there's two opportunities every other Tuesday to join us at the Take Center in Mayville, 10 a.m. and 6:15 p.m. And then I do a 4:30 virtual one. So those links are in there. The next one is Tuesday, March 11th, and we will be celebrating life, the amazing human that you are. So it's definitely a good one to chime into and explore with. So if you're interested, I'd love to see you there for some loving guided meditation to honor yourself and pick yourself up.
Awesome. Sounds amazing. I was in Mayville,
Yes.
but
You can do virtual. It's at 4:30, but you'd be in the truck. So that's actually not
yes.
a thing.
But
Darn.
anyway, thank you guys for
Yeah.
listening. We appreciate it as always. You make this fun to do and love the feedback. So always keep it coming. I got some last night from the free thing that people sign up on from here. So got some good feedback on our podcast and me and you back and forth. And so yeah, I love it. Love doing it. Appreciate everybody for listening and making it possible.
Thank you so much.